went online for that early Black Friday, online shopping that they have, and well, I wound up buying myself a gift. I found such a good deal, so I purchased this Wixey WR550. It's a planer readout for my Grizzly planer. I've been wanting to get one for a while, but they, always seem to be just too expensive. And Hartville Tool had a deal, and they had free shipping, and they had an extra 10% off. So I got a really good deal on this for the, the Black Friday sale. So I decided to pick one up, and I couldn't believe it came in like 2 days. So here I am. I got it yesterday, and I'm getting ready to open it up and put it on my planer. Came well packaged here, you can see, and there's a scale for the the digital readout, and then there's a reader that slides up and down the scale, and that has a connection on it for a cable, and then there's the digital readout that comes with it. It has a little mounting bracket with it, and basically there's some markings on the scale that you just kind of have to line up with the markings on the reader there, and they slide right together. There's a little bit of play in there. It will wiggle around a bit and stuff, I noticed, but and then there's the digital readout, and it does come with no batteries included, and you do need 2 AAA batteries. And for stuff like this, I like to use the Duracell batteries because they don't, they're not constantly in use, and they seem to go a long time without leaking or anything. So, you got to put a couple batteries in it when you get it, and comes with what looks like a standard network cable that hooks between the 2 units, and everything just plugs together like you see there. Cable is a little bit long, but I'll deal with it in the end. So then you just, the button there, hit the button, turn it on, and then to 0, you can move it. You can see the scale moving a little bit there as I slide it. And then you can just hit that bottom button and hold it down for like 3 seconds, and it resets to 0, and that's how you zero it out in the end. So it looks like it's going to work good, and I'm ready to head down to the shop and try to figure out how to mount it. Well, I sat there for probably close to a half an hour staring at this thing and holding it all over the place, trying to figure the best way to mount it. There are some instructions with it, but it seems like there's 100 different ways that you can mount this unit, and I decided to mount it on the side of the cabinet, like you see there, and so I just had to spin the planer around to have access to it to drill some holes, and I held the bracket where I wanted it and marked the slots on the side of the cabinet there on a piece of masking tape, and just going back now with one of those spring-loaded center punches and putting a little center punch in there. And then with the kit, they actually give you some self-threading screws and drill bits that go along with them to make the job easy of install. So here I'm just drilling through the side of the cabinet there, which I decided for me it was out of the best location that was out of the way, and it wouldn't get banged and stuff. So I drilled 3 holes, and then here are the self-threading screws that they give you. I decided to try one just to see how tough they would be to get started and stuff. And actually they were really easy to thread in, and it seemed like the drill that they gave you was a perfect match for them. So now it's just kind of time to mount the bracket on there. And you can see I kind of chose this location because it's off to the side by the switch where I really won't be swinging any lumber around or anything. And it also is positioned so that there's a little the 2 little ears that stick out in the front there. They're for calibrating the unit, which I'll show you a little later. So I kind of wanted them to be sticking out in the open in the front. So this is where I decided to place it. Like I said, there's probably 100 different ways you can mount it after looking at it, and this is just the way that I chose. Everybody we'll probably pick a different type of mounting configuration. So I, got the scale mounted on there, and that bracket does, really firmly mounted on there, nice. And then, once I got that pretty much in there lined up, I took a square and put it to the bottom of the table there, and made sure that I was perfectly square to the table, so the when it went up and down, there wouldn't be any binding in the unit. And then it's also mounted from the front to that bracket with 2 screws. So I put a square over the table on the over the top of the table on the planer, and just made sure that it was also square to the table and in the that direction. Got everything all lined up, and there you can see it's real nice and square, and it's it's the gauge actually is self-supporting, and it's mounted really firmly there, and I shouldn't hit it over there. So then just a matter of putting on the that slider that goes up and down the reader, and then they have a magnet that attaches to the reader. Now they say to hook it on one of those 4 corner things, but if you notice as you go up and down, the thing rocks if you're on the corner. And it doesn't read right. So the minute I moved it to the center there, you can see everything tracked right, and the digital readout actually didn't lose anything when you changed directions. So that's the way I decided I was going to mount it. And then I just chose this location in the front for the this readout on it. I thought it was a real nice location right next to the height adjustment knob, and I wanted it mounted on the table so it would go up and down with the table, and I could just, have no wires going up and down. Everything would be fixed to the table so I wouldn't snag on anything later. Plus this location, I figure I can always probably going to make a sheet metal guard to go around the outside of it. But if you look at it, you'll see that it's actually mounted lower than the that table on the planer, so it, shouldn't be able to get hit by a board or anything. So I'm hoping it's a good location. I will find out once I, start using it more. But, it was I kind of wanted to keep it all together, and it seemed like the best location for me. So same thing as they give you some more of those self-threading screws, and I had to drill up into the castings. Now these are smaller screws than the other ones, and, they were real easy to, the castings are soft and drill easy, and the screws threaded right into it. So I did get that mounted up there, and nice solid with a nice strong mounting system. Then they give you some of these little wire holders that are self-adhesive, and I just decided to try to wind these wires back and keep them as short as I could and out of the way. So I just stuck one on the side there to get the wires up under the table where I'd wrap up all the excess. So, there's what it looks like all mounted, and doesn't stick out too bad. Now on the other side, I was going to make a new bracket, but I decided to just try one of the brackets that they supplied. And, here you see I'm using the bigger bit to drill into the casting for one of those the last one of those self-threading screws that I have left. And, that was pretty easy to drill. I just held the bracket where I, located everything where I wanted it, and then drilled it. And same thing, you just got to start that screw, and it's a little bit tougher to get these things threaded into, a solid casting. But it's, they seem to hold good and, make a real nice thread in there. So I got that bracket mounted, and it's got to be spun around a little bit. Just 1 second there, and not sure if in the future it might try to move or something. I'll keep an eye on it, and if it does, I may have to just bend that one tab around. There you go. There you can see that's the way it's mounting, and I may have to bend that one tab down and just put another screw in that if anything moves, but I don't think so. It's really attached firmly. And there you see how I've got that magnet in the center of it now, and everything's got clearance to go up and down, and I got the wires tied back, and I actually just mounted them tight up under the table, so you really don't even have any pigtails or anything anywhere. So that's basically the the whole mounting procedure that I used. Now, once you get it mounted, you have to follow the calibration procedures here that are really straightforward and easy to do. So you basically just run a board through the planer that's under an inch thick, and let that be your gauge to work with. You can see you have to cut about 6 inches off the end in case there's any snipe, and just take a small piece out of the middle of it just to use as a gauge. And then you just take that little slider there and you loosen that knob up and just slide it down, and there's 2 jaws here that you just put your piece of wood that you just planed in there. And then you just go back up to the, there it is. It's just mounted in there and springs holding. You go back up and you turn it on, and then you hit the hold to calibrate and hold it for 3 seconds, and everything is zeroed out. Now you go back, take your piece of wood out, and let those 2 brackets go back up to where they're touching, and then just tighten that knob up again to, fix everything. And there's what the thickness of the board should be. That's what, after putting the scale back where it was. So then I just took and I measured the piece that I used, and there you can see it's right on. It's a little, 5/10 off, but it's really close. So, the calibration seemed to go really easy, and, it wasn't a problem, and everything seems to follow and work really good the way it's mounted there. So next I just set it down to 7/8, and I figured I'd try to plane a board and see what I came up with. And so I just took that same board and just took a couple thousandths off of it there and ran it through, and then just took a caliper to double check it. And it turned out that it was really once I got everything squared up on there, it was right just about dead nuts. It was really close. And then I just took and figured out, you can see there's a fraction show up on there too. So then I just cranked it down to 0.81 thick, which is actually 13/16, and I just decided to run another board through just to test it again. And I did this a couple times just to, make sure that the calibration was on and that it was repeatable. And so I ran that board through, and then I checked it, and actually, within 5/10 again, or right around. It was really close. It's looks like it's really going to work good. And then this is just measuring the other side, and you can see that basically everything's planing real nice and flat and everything too. So everything seems to be good to go now. And the other thing is, when you turn this off, power it down, it goes off, and then when you bring it back up, it does not lose the calibration, so it should always be calibrated, which is really kind of a nice feature. So I just thought I'd do a quick video on how I installed it. There's many different ways that you could install one of these, but this is just the best location I felt for my use and protection of it. So I just thought I'd share this in case anybody else out there is just interested in putting one of these on, because it looks like it's really going to be a great addition to the planer. So hopefully with Cyber Monday coming up, I'll be able to get everyone else's gifts. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.